for those that aren't aware, before Freedom House, if you had a medical emergency, you were either transported by police or, more commonly, transported by a hearse, by the funeral service. There wasn't ambulances until around this time.
Touched on a couple of interesting points. It's my, you all are helping me fulfill the desires of my heart, whether you know it or not. And it's to get a part of history that's been dormant for well over 50 plus years. Back into the forefront where it rightfully belongs. And you touched on a couple of things. One of my desires is to get the history of EMS taught in every EMT program, every paramedic training program, and as well as every EMS physician's training program. None of those things were present at that time. So we're talking about the actual creation and the foundation of what we take for granted today. And as you talked about the pit, things that are glorified on television, a variety of different EMS programs across the media. One of the interesting things about the program, and I've had the privilege of sitting in a meeting with Noah Wiley. I actually gave him an autographed copy of the book American Silence. Instead of me getting his autograph, which is the norm, he has mine. So
that's the way it should be.
But one of the consultants on the pit is a great friend of mine who's a pediatric emergency physician. It's amazing because you talk about law enforcement being the primary transport system. Imagine a community that had an adversarial relationship with law enforcement, meaning that the law enforcement at that time during the 60s was primarily the civil rights era. So racism was at an all-time high. Segregation was very fluent. Had primarily an all-white police department serving a predominantly black community. And unfortunately, law enforcement really didn't care about the members of the community. And the community, as a result, didn't trust law enforcement. So you had that adversarial relationship. So we, along with Dr. Saffer, designed the modern-day ambulance. That seat at the head where the paramedic or EMT sits, we designed that. The onboard suction unit, the BP cuff, the oxygen adapter that's on the side of the patient, we designed that. We discovered that it was somewhat too low to perform CPR or to stand up in, so we raised the head of it. We were the very first unit, obviously in the country, to transmit an EKG from the field back to the emergency room in consultation with the physician.
Did you know you were performing the first endotracheal intubation while you were doing it?
I didn't know I was going to do the intubation at all.
Sounds like my first one.
Yeah, we had all of this training, and we spent time in the animal lab, and we had mannequins and things like that. And I got there, and they put me in all this operating room attire and things like that. We entered, myself and Dr. Saffer, we opened the doors to the operating room, and everything stopped. The OR technicians, they stopped what they were doing. The surgeon that was getting ready to operate on the patient stopped what he was doing. The anesthesiologist who had anesthetized the patient stopped what they were doing. And they were all looking, I found out later, at me. And what I found out at that particular time is that the reason they were looking at me is because the only time someone that looked like me came into an operating room was with a mop or a bucket. I knew all these people were watching me. They had amphitheaters at that time, so medical students could look down. And I knew they were there, but I didn't see them. And believe it or not, failure was not an option. Because had I failed that procedure, there's a great chance that paramedics would not be doing it today. Little did I know, less than a week later, I would take that same skill and take it out into the field and perform it in a patient's home, which obviously had never been done before. We went on a call with a patient that was unconscious and was having trouble breathing. Now, I'm accustomed to intubating patients and animals that were not breathing. So we call our medical director, Dr. Nancy Caroline, and say, we have this elderly gentleman who has a history of COPD and he's having trouble breathing, and what do you suggest we do? She said, intubate the patient and start an IV. And I asked her to repeat it. I said, repeat what you just said. She said, I said, intubate that patient and start an IV on him. So once again, okay, you submitted this challenge. Never thinking about it, I had just done it less than a week ago. Took the patient into the emergency room. I got challenged by the physician. Who did this? I said, I did. Well, who told you to do it? Our medical director, Dr. Nancy Caroline. And well, who are you? I'm John Moon, and I work for Freedom House Ambulance Service.